Every time I enter a room and it makes me feel a certain way, then I'm like, why? What does work? What doesn't work? And I thought, for me, a project that makes you feel like you're attractive and strong and you're about to have the best night of your life, or makes you feel comfortable, makes you feel a certain positive way, that's a successful project.
Welcome to Things I've Learned. Back after a mid-season break and ready to dive into more conversation as we explore how the inner worlds of designers, architects and creatives shape the world around us, asking them to reflect on success, failure and, of course, design itself. I'm Harry McKinley. There's an age-old question that tends to surface in every creative discipline. Is creativity something we're born with, or can it be taught, learned? We often admire those who seem to move through the world shaping beauty out of the ordinary, with a natural flair for making creative connections, for seeing what others overlook. Yet we also know that ideas are rarely born in isolation. They're cultivated, honed through practice, exposure, and experience. Perhaps creativity is less a gift then, and more a muscle, strengthened by curiosity, failure, and perhaps a willingness to see things differently. Interior design especially tests this idea, because it demands both imagination and rigor, vision paired with technique and skillful application. Can one truly learn how to imbue a space with atmosphere, say, or how to conjure emotion through proportion, materiality, and light? Or is that ability something instinctive, embedded in a designer's way of perceiving the world? In many ways, that's a question we're trying to answer through this series, but few people are better placed to reflect on that than Linda Boronkay. Born and raised in Budapest, she comes from an artistic family. Her father, an architect, her mother, a cultural entrepreneur who founded a Pulitzer Prize-winning design magazine. Linda initially pursued a career in fashion design in Paris, while also working globally as a model. Then segueing into interiors in London, working with some of design's great luminaries, including Tom Dixon, Brudnizki and Tara Bernerd. Ultimately landing the coveted gig of design director for Soho House. But in 2020, she decided to go it alone, launching her own namesake studio, now with projects spanning 4 continents and 8 countries. Welcome to Things I've Learned, Linda. Tell me, has creativity always come naturally to you?
Well, thank you so much for having me, first of all. Creativity, I think it's something that is very innate in me. As you described, my upbringing has massively influenced me as a designer, but it doesn't always come naturally. And sometimes you have to go out and seek it and expose yourself to an exhibition or travel or a book or a movie, and then it happens. But it's sometimes you have to just wait it out. And it's a constant practice and it's a constant thing that you seek out, because it's a feeling that once you had it, you just want to keep wanting to get it and get it and get it. So it's almost like an addiction.
Well, we'll talk more about that addiction in just a moment. But first, a brief message. Finding a quiet place at work for a private meeting or deep focused work shouldn't feel like navigating Piccadilly Circus. Bureau builds modular booths that aren't just privacy pods. They're flexible, high-performing environments designed for deep focus, quick calls, or team huddles, built from sustainable materials, flat-packed for low-impact shipping, and crafted to last. From co-working floors to corporate offices and beyond, Bureau creates workspaces that, well, work. And with a human team guiding you from first quote to final install, change is refreshingly straightforward. See what's possible at withbureau.com. So our first chapter then, Linda, success. How do you define success?
Well, there are multiple layers to that, I think. I'm first and foremost, why I'm on your podcast, an interior designer. And of course, success is mostly defined in that sense on a professional level. But then I'm much more than that. I'm a mother, I'm a wife, I'm a friend. And I think the definition of success in my head, up until maybe a year ago, it was about the strive to achieve a balance between all of that. And of course, now an entrepreneur for the past 5 years, I learned that it's probably not possible because I'm just constantly finding myself working when I shouldn't and wanting to be with my family when I'm working. And I think it came a point about a year ago when I just made peace with the fact that it's not something that I can attain and I will have to choose quality over quantity.
I sometimes think in industry, there's this idea around success that feels relentlessly optimistic and positive, that actually you can have it all. It's just about hard work. But it sounds to me that you're suggesting that actually sometimes there's a hierarchy of successes and you might need to focus on one thing at any given time, maybe at the expense of another. So can you have it all?
I don't know. I find it an extremely huge pressure for people to say that you can have it all, because I don't think you can have it all. And it's fine. You will have periods of your life when you have a lot more success in work and then a lot more success in family. And this will come and go in ebb and flows. And when I let that go, that fight for the perfect balance, I actually became a lot more happier. And I feel like I'm on some level succeeding because my son loves me and I manage to spend as much time with him as I can. But then, I'm not feeling guilty when I need to hop on a plane and travel somewhere for my work, because I feel fully fulfilled when I can do that as well. And I'm a much better designer because I have this muscle now as a mom, this empathy and this huge love inside me that I can transmit through my work. And on the other way as well, I'm a much better mom because I have a full life outside of that. So when I'm with my family, I'm fully there. And when I'm at work, I'm fully there. But it's a constant battle. And I just made peace with the fact that there will always be something that's kind of missing. But it's okay.
What have you learnt about navigating some of those trade-offs maybe? Is it a case of I'm going to focus now on success in this one area? Is there a kind of conscious thought process then as to where you're going to seek success in any given moment?
Yes, I think it's hugely dependent of the rhythm of my day and the rhythm of my weeks and months, and just ensure that if I have a period of time when I need to focus more on my work, because as you mentioned as well, our work is very international, so that involves a lot of travel, a lot of time away from family, then I make up for it. I will take that time away from work and I will create a huge chunk of memory and adventure with my family. And it won't be a perfect balance. There will be times when I'm more focused on one area than the other. But at the end of the day, I will try to just focus on the quality of the time that I spend with them, not the quantity.
Well, let's talk a little bit about family then and the influence that has. My parents didn't occupy creative professions. And so my own career path has been something of a divergence. So I'm always interested in the stories of those for whom creativity was framed at home as something professional, not just a hobby or an interest. What did that background, that home life of yours that I mentioned previously, teach you about creativity perhaps? And do you think it laid out a pathway for you at all as to what success could look like in the creative industries?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the older I get, the more distance I have from that childhood, the more I understand the impact it had on me. Because thinking back, I didn't realize what a creative family I grew up in. That was just normal. I never felt like my father was unhappy about work because he just loved it so much. He would never stop. I would always see him sketch, draw. When we were even in a restaurant on a family lunch, he would get a napkin and start drawing. And he was so natural with it. It was very innate in him. He would read endless amounts of books and he was an absolute curious mind. And then my mom, on the other hand, was this crazy creative person. She had no formal training in design and therefore she was fearless. She would paint our living room bright green on one day and then the kitchen red. And, she was just experimenting so freely, go to flea markets and antique markets and putting very different styles together. And that was very, very inspiring for me. I would always sketch and draw, and I was very taken by, fashion shows. I grew up at the time of the 80s, 90s, the time of the supermodels, and that dream world, that sense of escapism, that was something that always really inspired me, which is why I gravitated towards fashion. And after fashion, I just naturally gravitated towards architecture, interiors, product design. And to my father's advice, I went on to study interiors.
For some parents, if their child went off to pursue a career in the creative industries, they might not be able to connect the dots that actually that can create quite a successful career pathway. Whereas with your home life, it felt very much like your parents saw that actually going into interior design, your father pushing you into that, could ultimately lead to a successful life.
It's important to mention that I never felt pushed. And I think if I was pushed, I would have gone against it. What was really nice about my upbringing is that I witnessed my parents being so fulfilled and happy in what they were doing. And it didn't seem like work at all. And yeah, I'm totally fortunate that I found the profession that I find every day fulfilling, and I can find my flow and let myself loose in it and have that warm, fuzzy feeling that you get when you fall in love with someone, for example, when you get a good idea.
What was your first taste of success personally, and what did you learn from it? When did you know it's working?
It was a lot of small steps towards successes. I left Hungary when I was 17 and I traveled the world. I worked in fashion. And what that taught me is when you go after things that are unknown, but you have an open mind to it, and you will succeed. So I tried to move to Paris. I moved to Tokyo. I moved to Sydney. I lived all by myself until the age of 22 when I first started studying interior design in London. Those years really taught me that just go for your dreams, go for what you want. And then it doesn't matter if you don't know how, but you will figure it out along the way. And the first success for me was when I first came to London, and I applied to study interior design, and they enrolled me on the spot. And I didn't even realize that could be an option. I thought that I will submit my portfolio, I will go for an interview, and maybe the next semester or the year after I can start my studies. But they were like, okay, you're starting next week. So I was like, fine, okay, maybe I can have a go at this. And then year 2 in university, I entered a competition, which was Britain's Best Emerging Interior Designer, and I won it. Me, a Hungarian who just arrived. I've lived in London for 2 years, and I was competing against people who were already professionals. And then I won this huge award, which was incredible. And that opened a lot of doors for me. That was a huge reflection on, the hard work and the passion and perhaps the talent can really pay off. And that's actually what landed my first company. And then I started working for Tom Dixon, and the rest is history.
Well, as you pointed out, you have worked with some of the design greats. I'm wondering if there's anything you learned from them about success.
I think the most important thing that I've learned from all these people, Tom Dixon, Brudnizki, Tara Bernerd, Nick Jones, who was the founder of Soho House, is being authentic. It's the biggest tool you can have as a designer, as a creator, as a visionary, is to find your own language and keep pursuing it. Have a mission that seems higher than just arranging cushions or putting fabrics together. It needs to be about something that you want to achieve. And then that will give you fulfillment, that will give you a sense of mission, and that will open up the possibilities of creating your own take on design, which then others can find inspirational.
So when it comes to that idea of needing to have something to achieve, something to reach for, what is the success that you're reaching for next?
Well, this is a constant topic with my husband, who's also working in the company, by the way. He's our finance director and managing director. And for me, the next dream project is not about financial success or needing to work with this specific brand or this specific location. For me, the biggest fulfillment in my work is always when I find a creative partner who's usually our client, someone who wants to create something that is leaving a legacy almost. And the journey when you're creating that. Of course, winning a project is a major success, and we have a bell in the studio and I ring it when I win a new project, and we celebrate. And of course, handing over a mock-up room or closing out a project, doing an install, doing a photo shoot, being published in a magazine. Those are all amazing points of success that is so important to celebrate because it's a huge sense of achievement. But for me, the biggest fulfillment is the journey, is that relationship I develop with my clients, with the craftspeople, with my team. For me, design is human interaction.
Well, we're going to talk about some of the moments that maybe don't warrant a bell ring in just a moment in our next chapter on failure. But first, a message. Mix Interiors is the leading platform for commercial interior design and architecture, in print and online. We feature the people shaping and reshaping the world around us, explore the latest projects setting the bar for exceptional design, and showcase the products at the very forefront of innovation and creativity. For more information on how to subscribe in print or to view the latest digital content, head to mixinteriors.com. So, failure then, Linda. You worked as a model, and I would say that that's a job that's perhaps wrapped up in both success and failure, in getting the gig and sometimes not getting the gig, rejection for want of a better word. Did that teach you anything about failure in rolling with the punches, perhaps, picking yourself back up and persevering?
Yeah, I think so, massively. Obviously, I was very young as well when I started. I had to have my dad coming with me to sign the contract because I was under, 18 when I first signed my first contract with my agency in Paris. And yes, modeling was the role of successes and failures. And also, as a young girl traveling the world, it meant a lot of situations and challenges that I never met before. Remember, this was a time before a smartphone. So it's just the challenges of finding the appointments that I was sent to, in a city I've never been to, and hearing a lot of no's, to applications to work. And then even when I had a shoot and the team wasn't the nicest to me, and it's an industry that is not famous for its handling of people very well, if I can put it mildly. So I was also very lucky that I had a very solid family background. So I never felt like I needed to make compromises or I needed to expose myself in a way that I was uncomfortable with to succeed. So I learned to say no very early on. I learned to step up for myself. I learned to question decisions that was made on my behalf. And I think the design industry as well, people like myself, designers, we're often exposed because we just love what we do and people might take advantage of that.
Is learning to say no then actually part of the skill set that you've developed in terms of navigating failure? So before something gets to a point where it will feel like in some way a personal or professional failure, actually saying no is how you mitigate that.
Absolutely. I think beginning with someone who wants to work with you, but the chemistry is not there, or you're not totally comfortable with the conditions they lay out for you. Just taking a step back and switching on your rational mind and mitigating risks and learning when you pull the plug is really, really important because, this is our passion, and also we are incredibly people pleasers. Designers are, we just want everyone to be happy and we just want to prove ourselves all the time. So saying no could be seen as a failure, but I think it's a very important skill.
And I read elsewhere that Tom Dixon was something of a mentor to you. I actually interviewed Tom fairly recently. He's a straight shooter, straight talking designer who's very open about the highs and lows of his own life and work. And I'm wondering if you learned anything from him about navigating failure.
Oh, I love Tom. I can thank him for so much. Like I said, he's given me my first job, and then I carried on working for him personally on his own personal projects. And I look at him as a mentor and a friend.
But he doesn't shy away from the fact that certain things in his career with the brand haven't always gone well.
Yeah, I think if someone says I never failed or I don't like failure, that means that they didn't really push themselves enough. I think it's your job to fail as a designer. It means that you're pushing the boundaries and you're trying new things. And, the law of numbers will prevail and sometimes you will fail, but at least you tried. I don't like safe players or people who just continuing and repeating the same thing they did over and over again because that worked. If I start doing that, that's the day I probably fell out of love from design.
Can you give me an example of when you feel that you have failed professionally or personally and what you learnt from it?
The real failure, I feel, is when we make a mistake on a project and something that we have done before and it could have been prevented. When we tried our best, when we given our 100% and we took a risk and we knew that it might not work out how we meant to work it out, that I think it's a semi-failure because at least you tried to push the boundaries.
Is there an example of something that maybe seemed like failure, but that actually you were able to turn around into a success?
I think in my line of work, usually there are a lot of people involved in the project. So we have a client, we have a developer, we have an operator, we have GMs who are working for the hotel, we have food and beverage directors. And recently I had a couple of projects where we were extremely lucky to work with a developer who had an incredible vision for something that was different from everything else that this brand has done before. So we took a chance and we ran with this concept. It wasn't an anonymously successful outcome. And myself, as a perfectionist, as a designer, I have a tendency of concentrating on the negative feedback and negative thoughts. And there was a point where I felt like this actually didn't really work out. All our efforts, months and months of hard work, is probably just something that we're going to have to start from scratch. The story is not over though, because it turned out that it is a success. It is something that is not for everyone. And it's probably that's why it's a success, because it's controversial and some people don't relate to it, but others absolutely love it. And it's about moving the needle, moving the standards of what a hotel room could be like and what a hospitality experience can be like. I think the learning is that sometimes you just have to take risks and just have to go for it.
And you mentioned that, design is personal and designers are people pleasers. When so much of your work today is tied into your vision, your approach, if something isn't working so well or is subject to perhaps less positive critique, does that feel personal to you?
Yes, sadly, it does. I mean, I'm trying to train myself not to. It's a mindset again. It's a muscle that you have to keep pushing and training to focus on the positives. But of course, it gets to you. And I think, again, the day it won't get to me is the day that I should probably close my office, because, something I learned when I was working at Soho House and working with Nick Jones is that I found it astonishing that even after 20 years, like the night before the opening or a week before the opening, he would get all nervous. Like, even though he had the biggest confidence towards everything that we've done and he's seen it all and he was comfortable with, he would have this wiggle. And at the time, I didn't understand why, because of course we've done this so many times and he knows exactly how it's going to turn out well, but he was really, really nervous. And for me, that just taught me that it's a natural feeling when you care about something so deeply and when you're pouring your heart and soul in it, like we do, it becomes personal. And that's okay.
Well, you've learned a lot from other people, whether it's Tom or Nick, about failure. What advice would you have to offer about failing well?
Get up and go again. Don't linger on it. The amount of failures really define your amount of success. You ask any successful people, I'm sure they have loads of stories about failure. And it's about learning to have that grit and that sense of mission and not giving up. And that's going to lead you to the person you become on your character and in your career is equally.
Well, we're going to talk more about that mission, your design work, your approach in our final chapter on design. But first, a message. Powered by Mix Interiors, Mix Awards is the most important awards program for commercial interior design and architecture, celebrating the most groundbreaking projects, the most inventive products, and the people behind them. For more information on Mix Awards and Mix Awards North, the biggest nights in the design calendar, visit mixinteriors.com. So we share something in common, as I also came to the design world through fashion. I wasn't a model, but I initially worked in the fashion press. You started out in fashion design. Did you learn anything about the culture of design, or maybe even about interior design specifically through working in fashion? Lessons that you've perhaps been able to apply to your work today?
I think, yeah, of course, you learn a lot about colors and textures and creating a narrative and how important it is to have a concept when you're creating even a fashion collection. To this day, fashion massively inspires me, especially, fashion shows, creating that dream world experience, that sense of escapism and that atmosphere that they can create with music and light and colors. And it's almost like set design. And that's something that I'm always striving to in our work as well. And those early years of being exposed to this has, of course, massively influenced me. And through the travel I did, the first time I went to Hotel Cost, I still remember that day so vividly. The first time I went to Boom Boom Room in New York, those are the memories that I have and that strong emotional impact that they had on me. That's the reason why I'm doing what I'm doing, to trying to recreate that and giving that to other people, that experience.
It's interesting that you talk about theatricality, because you're not the first person to mention that this season. Shane Brady talked about the connection between theatre and interior design. I wonder how that sense of drama manifests in your work today.
As a designer, you're a movie director. You're basically creating a movie. You have to have this very clear vision of what people will see when they first enter the room. Then they turn. What's the next thing they will see? The sequence of them moving around that space, the smell, the music they hear, the cocktail they'll see, the barman creating that experience and theater for them. All of that needs to come together. And then you dissect it and you start working on isolation just on the visuals.
You mentioned a couple of projects there that were very inspiring for you. So what for you is good design? Why are those particular projects memorable, for example?
I mean, this is a constant question, and it's something that I'm analyzing all the time. Every time I enter a room and it makes me feel a certain way, then I'm like, why? Why does this make me feel this way? What does work? What doesn't work? And I feel, for me, a project that makes you feel like you're attractive and strong and you're about to have the best night of your life, or makes you feel comfortable, makes you feel a certain positive way, that's a successful project.
Gosh, good lighting then. The case.
Good lighting, good acoustics, good music, a lot of things that are not design actually. So for me as well, it makes me very humble, because it's a lot of other things as well than design. And, for good projects, you have a say in that too. You're orchestrating all of that.
So then talk me through that. What is your design sensibility, your particular approach and style?
My approach is creating this spatial dialogue. For me, the goal is to create a feeling for someone, an emotional reaction through juxtaposition of certain elements. I constantly strive for more minimalistic approach. It's something that is an innate in me, innate in my architectural sense, my architectural background from my father. And then comes my mom's side, who wants to then embellish things and decorate it. And for me, this duality comes from, creating a very architectural approach to our space planning, making it extremely functional, making it extremely comfortable and ergonomic. And then it's almost like dressing a beautiful lady, you then put together the outfit and the jewelry and the accessories. And that comes through vintage pieces. We source a lot of vintage. We go to the source. We go to south of France. We go to Italy. We meet the dealers directly. And that already gives an amazing layer and story into our interiors. But that juxtaposition between architecture and decoration, the composition and seduction. And for me, that juxtaposition is something that is really exciting. And I always try to create that perfect balance between, a masculine and a feminine, decorative in architecture.
Can you give me a couple of examples of some of your projects, perhaps, that you feel have been particularly successful in that?
So I think the last example I have is a hotel project we opened in Prague called Sur Prague. And there the inspiration was Czech cubism, which is a very specific and very architecturally, geometrically strong design language. I found it extremely fascinating also for the fact that it's not something that I can recreate in Italy or in France or in England. This was a very singular design motif that only relevant in Czech Republic. So we integrated that design language into our scheme. But then when we did a lot of research about Prague itself, for me, it was very important to be location specific. And we found these folk tales, fairy tales about how Prague was founded. And apparently it was this princess who escaped, and her name was Libuse, and she stumbled upon this place, and she had a vision that this city will prevail and will succeed and will be world famous because of its beauty. So for me, the fairy tale and the Czech cubism coming together was a perfect tool to create that juxtaposition.
It sounds like that was quite a specific brief, but how much of your work then is actually informed by the brief, and how much is your personal taste? How much of your individual vision are you bringing to these projects?
So this was not a brief. It was something that we came up with. We were just told to design a hotel.
Ah, I see.
Yeah. So for me, this was a result of our research and our experience in Prague. The way we start each and every project is that we travel to the specific location and spend at least 2-3 days there, of which obviously half a day is going to be on site, talking about program and timelines and all the things that you need to do. But then you let us loose and we walk the streets and we take a lot of pictures and we visit sites. We visit the competition, all the other hotels that just opened. We go to the museum. In this case, we went to Modernista. We went to Adolf Loos's house. We went to see places that are very specific and representative of that location. And for me, what actually was really transpiring from this trip in Prague specifically was that all the hotels were quite generic, luxury glamour, but you didn't really feel like you're in Prague. And I thought that was such an opportunity missed. And for me, this is something that is very important for every project that we work on, is that you not only work with local craftspeople as much as you can and learn about local craft and then weave that into the design rather than trying to force someone to do something you imagined. But then also someone who wakes up in that room, they feel like, oh, I'm in Prague. This is amazing. And I learned something from it. And, the artists that we represent in the hotel, they are local artists. They also have a narrative. They also have a story. So it's almost like, it's going into a center of education and drama and music and literature. It's a whole experience that you're trying to create for these people.
But when you have the opportunity to draw from so many different influences like that, I guess to understand and learn a little bit more about your design sensibility, what is it about something that tends to capture your imagination? So, for example, what was it about this particular form of cubism that you thought, that's what I want to draw on for this particular design and project?
I mean, for me, it was important to find a design language, a design source that can't be repeated anywhere else. Cubism was a lucky find because that was very specific and it's a very strong design language. It's very expressionist and almost sculptural. And it's something that I haven't come across anywhere else. I find myself being a student again. Every time I start a project, it just opens an amazing array of opportunities to learn about the specific style, the specific architect. Like we're working in London on Park Lane Intercontinental, which is, designed by Frederick Gibbard, an amazing architect. That just opens up your mind and creates all these inspirations. So for me, I'm actually a lot less hung up on what your style is because I really don't want to have a style. I want to have a style that's known for creating these amazing spaces where people feel incredible.
I'm curious then, because of course as a studio, you have what you might call the luxury of not being defined because you're bringing your own sensibility to these projects. But of course, for example, when you were design director at Soho House, you're working within a brand. So I'm wondering how you navigated that and how you were still able to bring something of your personal design vision to that role.
So this is actually really interesting that you bring that up because when I was offered the role at Soho House, it was a role that I was extremely excited about because of the level of responsibility. But as a brand, it wasn't the most exciting opportunity for me because I felt like, oh, okay, so I'm just going to have to recreate the same thing over and over again. Like I remember the very first day I had a panic attack. I actually had to leave early and I didn't say goodbye to anyone because I felt like, oh my God, I'm never going to be able to do this. Like there's just so much work and I'm really not ready for this. And why do they want me here? And of course, 4 years later, I was still there and I was very happy. It was the time of my life, but I was surprised by how much liberty I was given. Nick was an incredible visionary. His main focus was always about how people will feel in my space, the customer experience. That was the first and only concern he ever had. He wasn't as fussed about what the concept is going to be. I remember having briefings with him when he would just describe a feeling or an atmosphere he wanted to create, but then the design was up to us, and that was very liberating. So, of course, where the Soho House was, whether it was in Amsterdam, Hong Kong, or Mumbai, that determined the style. And of course, as a brand, there were certain things that we loved, like color and pattern, but that was something that was really close to me anyway. So I think we managed to create a design narrative that was overarching across many different sites. So when you were in a Soho House, you could tell that you're in a Soho House. At least when I was there, I can tell you, there was not one light or not one furniture that was the same across sites. Every time we started a new house, we started from scratch. And it was really important for Nick as well to create this very unique experience.
So we've talked a lot about your journey, your childhood, going into fashion, then interior design with other brands, now having your own studio. What do you see as the future of your life in design?
I'm very excited about the future. I have an incredible team, a team of 20 here in London, and I have a partner in Sydney, and we are just getting better and better. And I put a lot of emphasis on learning from projects, training people, giving them an opportunity to learn and myself, and we are getting extremely exciting projects. We are lucky enough to have 5 hotel projects on the go at the moment. I never started this company from my bedroom during COVID as a young mom, setting out to be a major global success. It's not what I'm doing this for, but the projects we are getting are incredible. And I'm really, really excited about the opportunity to create experiences for people.
Well, it's been a wonderful conversation, Linda. I think my top takeaways are that when it comes to success, actually, maybe you can't have it all. And sometimes you do have to choose, and maybe that's okay. I also really enjoy your point around specificity in design. As an editor, I get a lot of press releases, and it can be difficult sometimes to really hone in on what the story is. But actually, when you have something tangible, something really specific, that's ultimately what allows you to create a project that just can't be replicated anywhere else. So thank you.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you for listening to Things I've Learned. If you enjoyed the episode, make sure you like and subscribe, and of course, tell your friends about it. And if you missed any episodes from season 1, catch up wherever you're listening to this. There's some great conversations there, the likes of Patrick Schumacher from Zaha Hadid, designer of the moment, Beata Heyman, and Ali Aslami from Google DeepMind. We also film these conversations, so if you want to see us as well as hear us, head over to our website, mixinteriors.com, or find us on YouTube. Join me next time when I'll be speaking to DMFK co-founder and principal Julian Demetz. Things I've Learned is hosted by me, Harry McKinley. This episode was produced by Nada Smiljanic, and the executive producer was Dan Jackson, with original music by Memotone. Things I've Learned is a co-production by Reduced Listening and Mix Interiors.